Make It Right, the manufacturing podcast.
Manufacturing is currently facing a number of challenges. It has an aging workforce, and in the US alone, at least one quarter is 55 or older. Most of those people are taking their knowledge with them when they retire. Manufacturing also has an image problem. It's having trouble attracting young people to the sector as it's not seen as lucrative, highly skilled, or high tech, or even sexy. And manufacturing has also faced a new challenge recently. That's the inability for everyone to be hands on site during a pandemic. If you have a maintenance issue, you couldn't bring people in to help you out. There are a variety of technologies that can help manufacturers with each of these challenges. And today we're going to look at the use of augmented reality maintenance and training tools, how they work, and what they're doing for manufacturers. Kevin Snook and I are joined this week on Make It Right by Dirck Schou. He is the CEO of Taqtile. They're an augmented reality technology company. And Dirk, I have looked at the videos and I just think the technology's really neat. It's almost like gaming to me. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Janet and Kevin. Nice to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about Taqtile and your goal to make everyone an expert through training and using augmented reality. I'm going to give you a challenge here. I want in like 60 seconds to just illustrate what this augmented reality training tool looks like.
Sure. So, everyone's familiar with the sort of suite of productivity tools that we have on our desktop. Let's just call it Microsoft Office. There's Google Docs, there's all sorts of productivity software. But what do you do on your desktop? You create documents, spreadsheets, PowerPoints, you send emails, that sort of thing. Deskless workers have none of that, right? They've got spiral notebooks. Maybe they have a mobile app. Maybe they have something on an iPad. They may even carry a computer around, right, with them, a laptop. But their problem canvas, let's call it, like our problem canvas being the computer screen. The problem canvas for the frontline worker is the entire world, right? The entire world is their problem. And what does that require? It typically requires someone following step-by-step processes to do something, to operate a piece of equipment, to do a process, to maintain something. Well, with augmented reality, what you have is you have the ability to project step-by-step processes over the field of view of any deskless worker, a frontline worker. By the way, there's 2.5 billion non-farm frontline workers in the world, and there's 500 million knowledge workers in the world. So the market is massive, and it's completely being underserved. And with an augmented reality, hands-free headset, this is the computer. This is the standard user interface for a deskless worker. We're just getting there from the hardware and the technology perspective, but this is going to revolutionize everything. Every worker in an industrial environment will have a set of safety glasses on them that has the ability to understand their environment, that has the ability to react to their gestures, their gaze, their voice, to control their experience and all the things that go along with that.
So share with me how one of your customers is actually using your technology to this will give us a better understanding of how it's going to work. So just
Sure. So,
share that.
For example, PBC Linear, a small manufacturer in the Midwest, 300 people. They have had a number of challenges, many of which that you mentioned in your introduction: older workers retiring, not enough younger workers coming in, not enough access to skilled workers, but they're also facing other competitive threats. On the older worker side of things, like even before the pandemic, there was this skills gap that was expanding, right? Older workers were retiring faster than younger workers could come in. Well, with a well-orchestrated set of tools leading with augmented reality, PBC Linear was able to hire a group of interns over last summer, basically gave them the tool and said, hey, start capturing our processes in our factory. And they captured, I don't know, 60 or 70 different processes. They documented them, and that enabled new workers to come in, train on their own, train faster, older workers to get refreshed on processes in the factory, again, at sort of a self-guided pace, or at an enhanced pace, basically. And they basically claim that this tool has enabled them to sort of go forward into the future and maintain their business at the same sort of rates that they have been able to do so in the past. So like that's just one example. We have examples across small manufacturers as well as large manufacturers, sort of across the board.
So basically, these people are going in, they're putting on the headset, and they're actually learning their process wearing this headset. It's telling them where to go next on the machine, what to do next. And if they have a question, they can connect with some support person, and that support person can see the machine and say, what you really need to do is, connect this and this because it's been disconnected, and that's where your issue is, right? Like they're wearing this headset on their head and it's telling them what to do and where to go.
Yes, and again, very similar to how a knowledge worker, a desktop worker uses desktop tools like, oh, I got to make a call and talk to someone to find out about this, this project that we're working on. What we're doing is developing the suite of productivity tools that we believe will become the de facto, almost the user interface, right? For any more, like, doesn't matter if you're on Windows or you're on Mac right now, you're using Office or you're using an Office suite, right? Like that has become the user interface, not the operating system. That's what we're trying to develop for the headset. Now, I'll say also one thing is that it all starts with making it very easy to capture knowledge of your most skilled workers. And that's where this has to start. If you have a tool, and it has to start in the engineering department on a high-powered desktop running some CAD application over a 3D model, you're never going to be able to scale that business, right? Like, so you have to be able to capture knowledge in a very natural way for the experts that are out there on the front line, many of whom are not digital natives, right? Many of whom are folks who are not comfortable with computers. So, was it Walt Whitman that said one time, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to write you a shorter letter? Like it was either Walt Whitman or it was a famous American author. And making something simple is much more difficult than making something complex. And what we are doing is we have simplified this process for these deskless workers who, again, are not digital natives, who are not comfortable with computing technology many times. Some of them are, but many of them aren't. You have to build for the lowest common denominator.
So there's a time to actually do that, and then there's a time to edit it, right?
Correct.
But the idea is that you come up with the ideal solution that then anybody who's new to the role can come in and say, okay, I am now faced with changing out this piece of equipment. What do I do first? And then that media is going to take you through that process rather than you having to have someone standing next to you.
The goal is to enable any un- or undertrained worker to perform any job as if they were an expert. There's this scene, again, I'll bring it to the movies. I am a fan of science fiction movies. The Matrix, right? There's this scene where Neo is being held by the Smiths Morpheus is being held by the Smiths, and Neo and Trinity are on top of this building, and there's a helicopter, and he says, hey, do you know how to fly this thing? And she says, hold on a second, makes a call, blinks her eyes a couple of times and says, let's go. Because they're in the Matrix, right? And she has downloaded this helicopter pilot program to her brain. Now, that's not exactly what we're talking about, but that's the sentiment. The sentiment is, let's access this this store of data. And by the way, this type of data doesn't exist right now. That's why we're at the very beginning of this technology. And that's going back to that, making it easy, making it simple. And the more that you document this, the more of these processes you have, and the more resilient your enterprise is.
So I'm curious. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I just want to follow up on that a little bit. One of the things for me, I don't wear glasses, and I'm a very tactile kind of person, and so I'm wondering what's the difference between doing a job and doing a job looking at it through enhanced reality. Does it feel the same? If you're changing that belt on that piece of equipment, are you disoriented in any way because you're looking at it through a sort of a virtual reality screen?
So there's a very small level of adjustment that you need to do when you're using augmented reality. Now, virtual reality is a different thing. We're not talking about virtual reality. Augmented reality is I am augmenting my real world view with digital artifacts. In fact, a computer screen is an augmentation of reality, right? Just this screen, I'm just not wearing it on my head, right? I've got this, I have my real world here, and then I have a digital construct that emulates, people and an environment and conversation, and it's very good, right? It's very natural. That's the way that that the best augmented reality solutions are. And in fact, really what you're doing is you're enabling people to use as much as there are a variety of categories that this falls into. One is augmented reality. The other one is wearable computer, right? So a wearable computer, like we think about like an Apple Watch is a wearable computer, and a lot of different sensors, that sort of thing. But a head-mounted wearable computer is also a way to describe this. And these head-mounted wearable computers, augmented reality headsets, they are transparent, right? It's just like there's a pair of glasses, and you could have no experience on, and you'd be seeing the real world with zero interference. And then a window will pop up, and that window can either follow your gaze around, or you can lock it into the environment in a certain area. So let's say I have come in and I'm working in this area right here, and this is where my tool sets are and everything like that. And what I do is I arrange my work environment. I have my video over here, I have my PDF over here, and then if I'm using a hologram to show me how this piece of equipment works, that experience will be locked into my environment. And if I have a handle here, let's say, like you can have a hologram that shows animation that goes over that, and you can toggle that on and off. So if you need to get some deeper level of understanding, and you have access to these other sorts of digital artifacts, you can toggle them on and off. But it's very it's non-intrusive as it is now, and it's getting better.
So I want to, because the technology that you're talking about sounds very cool for somebody who's younger. I can see how that just the actual fact that you might be able to play with this stuff would be a recruitment tool to somebody like, yeah, I'd like to get in there and learn how that stuff works. So let's talk about, the benefits as far as recruitment goes, but there's also, I'm sure, a safety benefit, and there's an error elimination benefit as well.
These are some of the two, possibly the number one thing that we're looking at with this technology. I mean, every industrial environment that I've ever walked into, there's been a sign somewhere at the entrance that says, it's been 152 days since our last accident. Let's keep up the good work, right? Like we've had quantitative analyses done in a variety of environments where we've shown close to, if not complete, elimination of errors, and errors equal, accidents in some cases, right? So I mean, that is I mean, the recruitment, you mentioned the recruitment, absolutely. You're up here in the Seattle area and you're maybe King County Wastewater is a customer of ours, like, and they're sitting between Starbucks and Microsoft and Amazon, and they're trying to recruit people. And how is a wastewater treatment plant going to recruit people in that environment? Well, they say, hey, we're going to invest in you. We're going to give you access to the best technology. You're going to be on the cutting edge of this. And by the way, you're going to, you don't have to have a computer science degree in order to do that. This is a way that you can get into this. And we're going to invest in you if you invest in us, right? So it covers the gamut with all of those things, but error elimination, increased safety. Again, I'm going to go back to PVC linear. They make very round bearings and very straight pieces of metal for a variety of customers, including the national labs. And they have pieces of what they manufacture that go through 4, 5, or 6 steps, and every step that piece adds value. And by the time you reach the end of the line there, that one piece may have $200 worth of value. In an environment prior to their using Manifest, they were scrapping 60 to 80 of these parts per shift sometimes, right? When you don't have a well enough trained person. So what does that translate to? $16,000 per shift? I'm not sure what that is exactly, but it's large, and let's say that you can even reduce that by half, right? That's a big win.
So one of the biggest reasons people don't make decisions is overwhelm, right? This seems too much for me, and so I'm just going to put that on the shelf for a while and go work on something else. If somebody wanted to get out of that feeling of overwhelm, how would they start to learn enough about this to be able to get to that decision point?
So number one, I mean, we have a lot of video content on our website. Like it's one thing to talk about what this is, but it's another thing to be able to see it. And this is a very visual medium. So at taqtile.com, there's a lot of videos that are out there. There's a lot of other companies that do this as well. Microsoft is a big provider of this technology, but if you just search, manufacturing augmented reality, you'll probably have 5,000 videos, that you can watch. The other thing is a lot of the companies out there will do free demo periods, or will have demo versions that you can download. Like, again, for us, we support iPad and some other mobile devices. So if you have an iPad, you can download for free a sample of what the tool looks like. Obviously, if you have a headset, you've already started to take that first step down the road. You can typically download a sample experience using that. And then, for us, again, and for other companies that are in this space, we have a variety of channel partners around the country and around the world that can come to a physical location and do live demos, right? Depending on whether or not that fits your COVID protocols.
So I'm just keeping an eye on the clock here, Dirk, but I did want to ask you one more question, and this is sort of pandemic related and not so much technology related, but you're a CEO of a company. You've gotten through, or you're going through, the pandemic. Tell me about just how challenging it is as a leader to ride through this.
Yeah, I mean, it's been extremely challenging. Communication is what it's all about. It's been about leaning in. It's been about, like, I'll give you one example. Like, probably about 6 months ago, my partner said, "Hey, listen, we have to be careful that we don't just lose people that that aren't required to get on calls, et cetera, et cetera. So we started doing a trivia day on Fridays, and we I don't know, pay $15 a week or whatever it is to get a new set of trivia answers, and you get an email, and you answer those questions in 5 minutes, and then half an hour later we all get on a video call and make fun of the wrong answers that we all gave. And so, like just these little things to make sure that we maintain our connection and our humanity, and that we invest in our employees, that sort of thing. Lots of other things. I could talk about this for a long time.
Yeah. Dirck, I think it's really interesting. I'd probably love to talk to you about just how you've ridden through this pandemic and some of the things that you've done, and the challenges that you faced. But we're running out of time here. So I want to ask you some key takeaways on just, I know that Kevin asked you the question, how do you look at this augmented reality and know when to get in? But I mean, you got interested in this, you see the value in it. What are the key points about it that you want to leave with people?
So it's much easier than you may think to get involved. It's much less of a challenge for your workers. You'll be surprised. They will adopt this. Even your older workers will, much faster than you think. It's not science fiction. People are using this today. Again, go to our website and look at some of the videos that are examples of how people are using this. It's less expensive than what you think it is, and in the long run, it's actually going to save you money and potentially can be a profit center, depending on how you consider using this from a support perspective. And then finally, I'll say, it allows you to have a much higher level of understanding about your operations and your facilities, because you're capturing knowledge, you're building a knowledge base with a tool like Taqtile's Manifest, right? This is something that you've never really had the chance to do in any sort of a cohesive manner in the front lines, in the field, in the factory. And so, I mean, the future is now with this technology, and I encourage people to start looking at it. In somewhere between 3 and 6 years, you're going to see every single worker in an industrial environment using a set of safety glasses that has these capabilities in them. This is no joke. This is going to happen. And the sooner that you get your mind around this and how it's going to be a benefit to you and your industry, the sooner you'll be able to put it to use as a competitive advantage.
Dirck, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on to talk about Taqtile.
Thanks, Janet. Thanks, Kevin. Very nice to talk to you.
Very well.
So Dirck Schou is the CEO of Taqtile. They're an augmented reality technology company, and Kevin Snook is a manufacturing leadership advisor. And this podcast is brought to you by Kevin and his book, Make It Right, 5 Steps to Align Your Manufacturing Business from the Front Line to the Bottom Line. You can find more of our shows at lucidi4.com. We're also on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. And there's more information on our Make It Right Twitter and LinkedIn feeds. And Dirck, if I have your permission, I might like to throw one of your videos out there so people can have a look at just exactly what you can do with those goggles on, because it's kind of cool. So anyway, thank you so much, gentlemen. And we'll see you again next week. Kevin, thanks for listening to the Make It Right podcast.